Hey guys, Berta here with BFit. How you doing? I am here to go over how to set up your spin bike correctly. Okay, so first things first. So I use a system of three things: a self-check, a bike check, and a ride check. So number one, a self-check. You want to make sure that you have adequate clothing on, the clothing that isn't too loose. You want to have something tight shorts or pants. That way they don't get kind of tangled up on you or get caught on the seat or the pedals if you have long pants on that are loose. So you want to have some sort of tight-fitting clothing. They do have actual spin shorts or pants that have cushioning in the booty if you would like that extra cushioning. And then you want to make sure, so if you're riding with regular shoes, you want to make sure that the shoelaces are not too long to where they get caught up into the pedals. So if you do wear regular shoes, make sure you tuck those shoelaces, okay? And then if you're not, you can also use clips. So clip shoes, those are obviously the best because, and some clip shoes actually do have laces too. So again, just make sure those laces are tucked, okay? And then make sure you have your towel, your sweat towel, your water bottle, or maybe your music, your phone, everything that you need. Make sure all the loose stuff is off. Maybe you got sunglasses on your head, you want to take those off, okay? So that's your self-check. Kind of check out, make sure that everything that you have on, you have everything you need on your bike, you're ready to go. Now the bike check. So let's get that bike set up for you. First things first is the saddle. So you want to come next to the bike, standing next to it, nice and straight up, and find the bony part of the hip, right at the top of the hip bone, and you want the saddle to be about 1, maybe 2 inches below that hip bone, okay? So you can see mine is set up about 1 inch below the top of my hip bone. And then, of course, you can always adjust this. This is a great place to start and then kind of see how the ride feels, and then you can go from there to adjust it more if needed, okay? So this is a good starting point for you. So after the saddle is the handlebars. The handlebars, we want, usually when you're first starting out spinning, I always encourage my clients or classmates to start with the handlebars as high as possible. And it'll show you there's numbers on here. Usually they have numbers or letters, but you can actually, it'll tell you where to stop. So I usually encourage them to go as high as possible until they get used to it and build up that stamina and strength, especially in their core and lower back. And then eventually you can start to lower those handles down. Okay, now every bike is going to be a little bit different. Once you get those things set, mine actually twist to tighten. My bike actually twists to tighten, but other bikes might be a little bit different. Usually, most of them that I've seen are twist, but you might have some levers too. Okay, so just make sure they're nice and tight once you get those set up. And then lastly is the distance between your saddle and your handlebars. So what I usually do for a good place to start is take the elbow in front of the saddle and then take those fingertips towards the handlebars. And then you'll notice where the fingertips land. And you usually want them to land somewhere in the center of the start of the handlebars, okay? So there's usually a nice big space right here in the middle. So my fingertips are right towards the edge. They come on about right smack in the middle, which is a great place to start. Again, so then I ride, and if I feel too close, then I know my fingertips need to end further back, or vice versa, maybe come further closer if I feel too far away. Now, most bikes, again, have numbers and or letters and markings that you can actually write down and or save in your phone, so that way, if you're going to use that same bike over and over, maybe at a class or something, you can write those down and know how to set it up exactly and don't have to think about it. But at least these are good tells, so if it's a new bike, you can kind of set it up to your hips, handlebars all the way up, or to your liking, and then just check that saddle in between the handlebars and the saddle, okay? All right, so we went over the self-check, we went over the bike check, yes, and you want to give it a nice little wiggle too, make sure it's not off balance. Most bikes have legs underneath that are adjustable to make sure that it's nice and level. Depending on the floor that you're on, and when bikes get moved around a lot, sometimes they can become unlevel, okay? All right, so lastly is going to be your ride check. So you make sure everything's nice and tight. Now what I don't want you to do, I see this a lot in classes, is to step on the pedal to hop on over kind of like a horse, right? Now, what I would rather you do is to use the bike, either the back step and come on up and over. The reason being is because those pedals are only rated for a certain amount of poundage, which it's pretty high, but if you were to kind of jump and put all your weight into that pedal and then try to hop on over, you might end up breaking the pedal, and that would be kind of embarrassing, and we don't want that to happen, okay? All right, so then you're going to come onto your bike, and you want to be on the saddle. The cushiony part is where the sits bones land, right? And then you're going to clip into your pedals and or into the stirrups of the pedals, which I'll go over here in just a moment. All right, so on the pedals, the feet should be The balls of the feet should be on the pedal, not the toes, because sometimes if you're using regular shoes, you might naturally want to put your foot all the way into that cage, right? And everybody's foot is a different size, and that might not be necessary. So you want to make sure that the ball of the foot right below the toes is on the center of the pedal, okay? And then you'll tighten yourself in. You'll notice the cages can tighten in. I'll see if I can get a closer up shot for you guys later. And you'll tighten yourself in. You want it to be nice and tight because when you're spinning, you're not only pushing through the balls of those feet, you're pulling upward on that pedal as well, so you can use the back of the thighs. So that way we don't only work the tops, we use the back too, and we get energy from the whole leg, okay? So as you start to pedal, once your feet are settled, you give it a couple whirls. You might not tie in all the way yet, and you just kind of give it a couple of whirls and see how it feels. Notice if you feel too close to the handlebars or too far away, like you feel like you have to reach really far for the handlebars. We might need to adjust, the spacing between the saddle and the handle, okay? So give it a couple whirls, and then what I'm gonna have you do, in class I'll do this too, you're gonna come to a stop, and you're gonna see this arm that the pedal is attached to, and you're gonna take it to 6 o'clock, all the way down to the bottom. The foot is parallel to the floor, okay? And you wanna make sure that the knee has a slight bend, which mine naturally has a nice bend, and my hips aren't shifting off the seat to reach down, right? So I'm still nice and centered, slight bend in the knee, it's great. Then you're gonna bring that foot up to about either 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on which foot you're using. You're gonna come up to that space, right, to where that bar is parallel to the floor. And you're gonna make sure, you're gonna kind of come forward like you're riding, and you're gonna look down at that knee and make sure that the knee doesn't go past where the pedal is, okay? So that's where you wanna be. You wanna make sure that the knee doesn't go. That means you're way too close to those handlebars, right? All right, so those are a couple of checks on your bike. Again, you give it a couple whirls, see how it feels. Usually you'll have something in front of you for tension. Mine is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This is also my emergency brake. If I push it, it'll slow me down gently. Now, every bike is a little bit different, but usually there's some sort of lever in the middle, okay? All right, so once you're settled, you're strapped in or locked into your clips, give it a couple of whirls, and then every instructor is gonna be a little bit different in regards to placement of the hands. Now, usually position 1 is gonna be center, and then position 2 is going to be out wide to the side, and then position 3 up forward. Now, I don't usually cue position 2 or 3 unless we come up standing, okay? But of course, it's your comfort level. That's what matters. But we want to make sure that those wrists are in a line with the arms. So sometimes I'll see this in class where the wrists are bent, and people are kind of pushing forward, and they're just putting a lot of weight and pressure into those wrists. So you want to always be nice and light in those hands, nice and long in the wrists. Good. And then when you go to stand up, if you were to come up into position 2, you're going to be nice and light in the hands. If you shift forward to 3, it's not a death grip. Core is engaged to where you can actually ride just over that saddle, okay? Another tell on your ride too is when you do stand, you want to make sure you'll probably feel the saddle, I'm going to come to a stop. You'll probably feel the saddle graze the back of the thighs and or a little bit of the booty. It shouldn't be poking you. It shouldn't be like crazy up against you, but it should be a nice light graze, okay? All right, so give that a try, standing nice and tall. See how that feels, and then come back down into the saddle. Always control your sit down. You never want to plop down into that seat. And then make sure you have enough tension before you stand as well so that we don't hyperextend those knees, okay? All right, so give it a couple whirls. I hope that helps you today. And if you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always message me or type it in the comments, and I'd be happy to help. Again, Berta with BFit. Thanks for listening.